My name is Eliza, and I work at the Detroit Lakes Public Library. Are you ready to travel through time? Collect your cup of tea because it's tea time in these 6 historically inspired novels. Soulless by Gail Carriger. My name is Alexia Tarabotti, and I have no soul. Preternaturals are the opposite of supernaturals. Individuals with an excess or abundance of soul, and once bitten can be turned into a vampire or a werewolf. Preternaturals, or soulless, like myself, have the ability to negate or take away supernatural abilities, and all I have to do is touch them. Now, it was not my fault the unexpected vampire had no idea what I was. I was simply in the library enjoying a nice cup of tea when the unexpected vampire shows up, bared his fangs, and tried to bite me. It was quite rude. I'm sure if I was a normal English woman, he would have bled me dry. I was simply defending myself. Thankfully, I had my trusty parasol with me. I do believe he was a newer vampire, though. His clothing was cheap, his cravat terrible, and he spoke with a fang lisp. It was as though he had never received any etiquette training at his hive whatsoever. My dear friend Lord Aquildama, the dandiest of vampires, would have fainted from the shock of it. With all of these unwelcome vampires showing up and other vampires disappearing, people believe that I am responsible. Even the werewolf head of the Bureau of Unnatural Registry, Lord Macon, is nipping at my heels. Will my ability as soulless to negate supernatural abilities prove to be helpful? Or just plain embarrassing? Who's really after all of these vampires, and do you believe we'll have enough time for tea? Soulless by Gail Carriger is the first book in the historical fantasy series, The Parasol Protectorate. If you're looking for a little bit more danger to add to your tea, A Spy in the House by Y.S. Lee. London, 1858. Mary is being sentenced to hang at the gallows for thievery. However, she gets a second chance. She is taken to Miss Scrimshaw's Academy for Girls, where she is educated and trained to become a spy, and join a team of female intelligencers known as the Agency. Now, 3 years later, Mary is off on her very first solo mission. She has accepted a position as a lady's companion for one Miss Angelica Thorold. By day, Mary sits by the fire, drinks tea, and embroiders on cushions, pillows, as well as napkins. But at night and in reality, she is there to gather evidence against Angelica's father, Henry Thorold, as his company is being suspected of smuggling goods into England. Will Mary's first mission be an utter success? Or is she simply out of tea and her mission will go down in flames? A Spy in the House is the first book in the Agency series by Y.S. Lee. Getting a bit bored of England? Well, collect your cup of tea and let's head onto a steamboat and head down the Nile to Egypt in the historical mysteries The Crocodile on the Sandbank by Elizabeth Peters. Now, Amelia Peabody is not in search of a husband. Rather, she is looking for ancient artifacts. After her father's death, Amelia has a lot of time and money on her hands. So she decides to take a holiday across Europe. While there, she encounters a disheveled but beautiful young girl named Evelyn and takes her on as a companion as she continues on her holiday. The two girls meet the Emerson brothers, a set of archaeologists who are on their way to Egypt for the season. They decide to tag along and head down on a steamboat towards their new excavation site where they will be spending the summer. They uncover a tomb with a mummy and possibly a mummy's curse. Now there are bad omens popping up everywhere, as well as misfortunate accidents happening all around the excavation site. Is there really a curse? Or is there something a little bit more sinister in the shadows? With Evelyn being kidnapped, things are about to get a whole lot more dangerous. Crocodile on the Sandbank is the first in the Amelia Peabody Historical Mystery Series by Elizabeth Peters. Now, it is terribly difficult to enjoy a nice cup of tea when you're completely broke. And a madman is running around London murdering girls and chopping off their body parts. In The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodore Goss, Mary Jekyll knows that there are monsters out in the world. After her mother's death, Mary is left completely penniless. So, to help avenge her financial woes, she starts looking into the mysterious past of her father, who had a known associate named Mr. Edward Hyde, a known murderer, who also has a reward out for any information about him. So Miss Mary Jekyll heads out and encounters Sherlock Holmes and his trusty sidekick, Dr. Watson, and together they investigate into her father's past and learn about a secret society of mad scientists. Along the way, Mary Jekyll encounters Wild Child, Diana Hyde, Poisonous Woman, Beatrice Rappaccini, Cat Lady, Catherine Moreau, as well as the one and only Justine Frankenstein. As they continue to learn about their past and the Society of Mad Scientists, girls are still turning up all over London missing parts. Is Mr. Hyde really behind the murders? Will the girls be able to keep their heads? Or will time only make monsters of them all? The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter is the first book in the Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club by Theodore Goss. Now, we all know about mad scientists, but what about time dimension hopping librarians? The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman, as the title suggests, is an invisible library. This invisible library exists in its own dimension devoid of time and is connected to other realities through the items that its librarians collect. There are other realities and times, like a reality with dragons and magic, another dimension that has advanced technologies like the internet, iPads, computers. And there's also alternative timelines, like World B395, which is a Victorian England that also has some magical creatures called Fae, who use glamour to get what they want. Now, the library hand selects individuals to be trained as its librarians, who are sent out on missions to collect great works of fiction that will tether the library to these other dimensions. Irene is one such young junior librarian, and she is ready to show her worth. Now she is sent off on a mission with a new library trainee on a very standard gather and tether mission. Go to the parallel world, find the book, bring it back by any means necessary, as well as show the new kid how it's done. However, when Irene and her trainee arrive at B395, they find out that the librarian residence has gone missing. The book has been stolen. Her trainee is definitely hiding something. And the world is starting to show signs of chaos contamination. What is her trainee really hiding? Will Irene be able to save her trainee, the book, and B395 before it gets contaminated completely by chaos? The Invisible Library is the first book in the Invisible Library series by Genevieve Cogman. Are you looking for a little bit more gossip and scandal to go with your tea? Then Shannon Hale's Austenland is right up your alley. Jane Hayes is your average New Yorker. Your average New Yorker whose entire love life has been completely ruined by Jane Austen. Jane has an utter love of the BBC Mr. Darcy and has fallen in love with him over and over and over again and has completely ruined her love life because of it. At age 32, she's considered a spinster by Jane Austen standards. No one knows exactly how much she likes Jane Austen's works of Mr. Darcy, except for her great Aunt Caroline. After her great Aunt Caroline passes away, she leaves a most mysterious and extremely fun gift in her will for Jane. Instead of money, Jane gets an all-expenses-paid 3-week vacation to England to stay at a recreational resort called Pembroke Park, where you get to dress up like you live in the Regency era. Jane gets to travel across the pond and wear fancy dresses, attend balls, have tea, and flirt with young gentlemen like it's 1816. Now, will Jane be able to live out her Mr. Darcy fantasies and leave them behind to move on with her love life? Or is she going to fall even more behind and fall deeper into the Jane Austen world and stay a spinster forever? So, you better collect your cup of tea and snag a story to enjoy one of these historically inspired books. Soulless by Gail Carriger, Book 1 of the Parasol Protectorate series. A Spy in the House by Y.S. Lee, Book number 1 in the Agency series. Crocodile on the Sandbank by Elizabeth Peters, Book number 1 of the Amelia Peabody series. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss, Book number 1 in the Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club. The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman, Book number 1 in the Invisible Library series, as well as modern fiction, Austenland by Shannon Hale. Enjoy your tea!